Hey, doing Shane here with Modern Warrior Project, and I'm privileged today to interview Mr. Gray. He's the commander of the Red Rock Search and Rescue, and we're going to kind of discuss their mission and a little bit about what they do and learn more about the organization. So, Mr. Gray, if you want to, just introduce your organization, kind of the conception, and talk a little bit about that.
Okay. Well, we are Red Rock Search and Rescue, based in Las Vegas. But that doesn't, being the name Red Rock Search and Rescue doesn't limit us just to our Red Rock area, which is a conservation area to the west of us. But because we go all over the valley, in several states. We've been in Utah, done searches in Utah and Arizona, and some a little bit in California. But we started Red Rock Search and Rescue back in 2012 due to a hiker who was missing, Ron Kirk, who was missing up in the Red Rock Conservation Area that's west of us. And what happened was he went missing, was gone for a couple of days. Our Las Vegas Metro Search and Rescue department here, law enforcement, went to search for him. Eventually, what they did was they just ran out of resources and couldn't search any longer. The family was looking for answers, needing somebody to continue the search. So what happened was a group of people got together and talked to Las Vegas Metro and said, we'd be willing to go and put a group together and go up and search for him. And they did, and they eventually ended up finding him. So it was he was recovered up there, and that was the start of it. And what happened after that is Las Vegas Metro began to see us as a resource for issues with lost people when their resources defined the point where they couldn't continue any longer. So that's how we started out, and then we just have grown from there. And we now do, like I said, we do searches. We do searches in the wilderness. We do urban searches. A lot of times that's for dementia or people with Alzheimer's, that kind of thing. People find that interesting that we go down on the strip and actually do organized searches on the strip in the urban areas for people.
Yeah, so, I didn't even see that. And that was what you answered one of the questions because of the Red Rock. It's a beautiful area out here. If you don't know, and if you ever visit Vegas, definitely check it out. It's gorgeous. And I was curious as to whether or not you expanded beyond that.
Right.
I would have never guessed urban, but that makes good sense, I guess, blue alert type thing.
Right. And actually, in all actuality, we probably do 50-50. It's about a 50% wilderness, 50% urban. And again, the wilderness area is different than a lot of wilderness areas in the country. This is a very different environment. It's obviously desert, arid. We do searches not only in the wilderness area right outside in the Valley of Las Vegas, but also what's called the Valley of Fire State Park, which is about 45 minutes north of us here. We do quite a bit there. It's a very popular park. A lot of people get in trouble going up there, especially in the heat in the middle of summer.
Okay. So do you have an actual mapped outline, like we don't search beyond this as far as your organization and what you're responsible for, or is it just kind of if you're available and a local entity says, hey, we could use your help, you do?
And that's exactly what it is. Yeah. We have the MOU, which is Memorandum of Understanding with 11 different agencies. Okay. That includes Las Vegas Metro, North Las Vegas, Henderson, Bureau of Land Management, National Park Service, Coroner's Office, all those state Department of Wildlife. So we have MOUs with all of those. So we operate two different ways. One way is if one of those entities comes to us or contacts us and says, hey, we need your assistance. This is the situation. And then they lay it out. We don't always necessarily take on those searches. It kind of depends on, but most of the time, if they ask, we're going. Mm-hmm. The other way that happens is the law enforcement or the agency has gotten a missing persons report. The family has dealt with that agency, and at some point the family feels like there needs to be more answers than what they're getting from the agencies. And I mean, you got to understand something. Our law enforcement agencies here in Las Vegas are extremely overburdened.
I'm sure.
So the families then, we have a hotline number. The families then call what we have what's called the ECT, which is our emergency call takers team. It's a team of volunteers who sit on phone lines and take the calls. And then what they do is they have a form that they fill out and a myriad of questions to get information and background information so that they can pass that on to our command staff. Then what our command staff does is they look at that information and they say, yes, this is a search that we could take on. It would be something that we'd be interested in doing. So that's the two different ways.
So, and you're a completely volunteer organization. How many, it doesn't have to be exact, but estimate, how many people do you think you have as far as?
Well, I've got my statistics right here, but
Okay.
I'll just give you an idea. So as of July, we had 108 active members.
Okay.
There are some that are called resource members, which are members who don't have to necessarily go through all the training, but they have some specialty area that they are good at that we can use their expertise in other than on a search.
Okay.
Yeah, we have 108 active members right now.
And so for your actual search team, I saw you have an academy out there, and go about that more. What, as far as your on the ground individuals that are out there, let's say in the wilderness searching, is there a specific training curriculum or program you have to go through?
There is. So our field team members, we have two different sets of people when the search happens. We have our field team members, and then we have our command post members. So our field team members have a little bit different level of training, and we train to what's called the National Association of Search and Rescue, or an SAR level, and they have to be SAR Tech 2 level certified. That involves approximately 40 hours of classroom training for the fun SARs called Fundamentals of Search and Rescue training. And then we have additional Red Rock Search and Rescue trainings that they have to do on top of that. So it is pretty extensive for our field team members. The command post members also have to be NASAR certified, but it's a NASAR level 3, which is a level below the 2, because they're not actually out in the field searching. They're in the command post. And we have a mobile command post, but anyway, they're in the command post and they're doing logistics, maps and following and tracking and that kind of stuff. Yeah.
And so for, and I would assume you said you got the national standard, and then you guys go further into, I would assume that's probably more geographic specific as far as the climate challenges you have here, very unique.
Absolutely.
That's geographical. Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Great. And so is that, do you have, what do they call it? The sustained training? Do they have to do iterations every year?
We have recertification requirements.
Okay.
Right. In certain areas of training, for example, our wilderness first aid, they have to be recertified every year, and they have to go through a certification process. The initial certification process is a little more extensive, and once they get their certification in wilderness first aid, then it's a recertification, which is kind of just a refresher course kind of thing, just to make sure they're up to speed, along with search techniques. Some of the medical, especially the medical areas, we have an outstanding division of medical for us. So there's some recertifications that we have to have every year.
Does your organization have? You said you have the MOUs with 12. I think you said 12 different names.
11 of them.
11. I do assume you have a good working relationship with those, because I imagine they're probably happy to have you help with some of that burden.
We do have a good relationship with them, yes, and they are happy to have us help. And that kind of goes back to our training, and having that level of certification and training that assures the agencies that we work with that we're going out there and being professional and are a resource that's a positive resource, rather than being, we're an asset versus being something that's going to be a liability for them, and then they end up having to deal with us, not some subject that's out there. That
have some confidence in the team that's out there looking. Exactly. I'm going to just add to the burden of the looking for your team leader.
Right. Yeah.
So how many rescues a year would you say that your organization on average is called?
Yeah. Well, I could actually give you an idea of some of the statistics. So, for example, from the beginning of this year until July, which I have the statistics, we did 18 actual searches. That may not seem like a lot, but we also have exercises, which are training exercises, that kind of thing. And then we have events, which are anything from fundraising events to other events that happen. It's interesting to we have our busy season and we have our down season. So it kind of is seasonal. And again, that's because during the better climate times of the year here. We get more, there's more people out and on the trails and out doing things that they shouldn't do and being stupid. So, so that's the case with that. But, it varies, and we can have sometimes where we'll go, 2 or 3 searches in a week.
Really?
And then sometimes we'll have a once a month.
And you said, that's not much, 18, but 18 over, 6 months or so. That's 3 a month. That's might not sound like a big number, but that's a significant. I mean, it's 18 people that you're out there trying to find in the vast, wild desert. So I can see that being a chore. Just from your personal experience, you've got 10 years doing this now. What would you say on average? Would you say that it's more locals or more tourists that you find? And you're obviously not one of the tourist capitals of the world here.
Right. That's an interesting question. And I don't know if we've ever really looked at that statistically, and personal experience tells me it's probably more tourists or people coming here to take advantage of the outdoor rush, like outdoor enthusiasts. So it's not necessarily the tourists that are down on the strip. They're down the strip because they want to be down on the strip and they don't really want to be out in the wilderness. But we have tourists that come here and do that. Matter of fact, the Red Rock Conservation Area is actually the #1 climbing area in the world. We have people come from all over here to do climbing in the Red Rock area. That's not so much of an issue. What the issue is are people that come here, and a lot of times it's recently moved here people. So I wouldn't call them our citizens, but they are, they just don't understand the environment and the extreme conditions that we have. And that's what gets them in trouble. And I would have to say probably that's more the case. Or are they tourists, sort of, but it's kind of a combination of that and newly moved here residents.
I know in a lot of the skydiving, for instance, comes to mind. A lot of times the accidents are not your new people. They're your senior, your senior skydivers, because it's a bit of complacency and overconfidence. In your experience, would that kind of correlate to that's often the seasoned adventurers, the seasoned outdoorsmen that you end up having to?
Yes, and the less seasoned, but they underestimate the environment or they overestimate their abilities. And that's overestimating their ability is probably more what gets them in trouble than anything. Now, I'm going to also state that, there's a good share of the requests by our agencies for us to go and search for people who purposely go out in the desert to get lost.
Oh, really? That's unfortunate. So, yeah.
So there's a number of those. But again, to go back to, the people that actually do get themselves in trouble, like I said, they overestimate their ability, underestimate their preparation, and that's what gets them in trouble the fastest.
Yeah. And so with with Modern Warrior Project, one of the things we have a big survival element to the organization, and I'm trained in survival, and I've got experts that are true wilderness survivals, that work with me. But even with the skills of being able to go out there, one of the things we constantly profess is preparedness. It doesn't matter, and you see it on some of these shows like Alive. You'll see these guys that are super confident in their fire-making abilities. They don't take a fire tool, and I think that's a foolish move and they pay for. Preparedness is a huge thing, and I'd say a lot of times you just kind of overestimating your ability and not really paying attention and doing the homework on the thing. And sometimes just accidents happen too, that can certainly happen. What would you say? Obviously, you rescue some and you recover some, recovery being the unfortunate ones. Is there a number that comes to mind? I'm missing today. Is there a day, an hour, or something like that to where the probability of a recovery versus a rescue becomes pretty low?
There is. Most of the time, we lead that up to the agency that we're affiliated with during that search. They'll be the ones that'll say, "This is now turned over to you guys to be a recovery."
Oh, so you actually delineate between the two, whether you're on a rescue versus a recovery?
Yes. Okay. Because that depends. What that makes a difference in is how our mission. We have a mission development team puts together all of our mission search plans. They're phenomenal. Great at making maps and putting on search areas and planning based upon a lot of different things, probability of last known position, all those kinds of things, but also whether that's a viable rescue versus it being a recovery. So that does make a difference. Is there a certain number? Not necessarily. Again, if you look at our environment, during June, July, August, when it's 115, 120, that viability, that ability to stay viable and be a rescue is shortened significantly.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking, if we're not out there within a few hours of that person missing, it's if they're not prepared or if they didn't take anything with them.
Out there.
Other than that, there's a time window and again, usually that's determined by the agency that we use with.
Okay. Yeah. So as far as general tips, advice, because I mean that's 10 years experience doing this. I'm sure you've seen it all, and we'd love to hear any general guidance, advice, tips that you have.
Yeah, what I would say is for anybody that's survivalist or just weekend hiker or casual person out there in the wilderness, I would say here's what you really need to be aware of. One is make sure you take enough water. Just even if the conditions don't seem like they are necessarily needing of water, that's one of the big ones is water. As searchers ourselves and our field team members, we're required to take a minimum of 3 liters of water. And a lot of times we're carrying twice that much. And again, kind of depends on what that environmental condition is at the time that we're doing the search, that kind of thing. Other thing is planning. Plan the search, let people know, again, contact people, let them know where you're going to be, when do you expect to be home. So make a plan and have the people that are not on the search or not on the expedition with you to have that plan.
Absolutely. That's a big thing that we profess to. I mean, that's a big safety net because that narrows that shoot to bang time for you.
Right.
Because if they expected a call at 1:00 and they didn't get it, now you're immediately, you've got help coming. Yep. Whereas, if it takes a couple days, it might be too late by then.
Yeah.
That's important.
Another thing I would tell you is don't go alone.
No.
Absolutely don't go alone. We get a lot of people out here that hike up in the desert or up in the mountains alone. And we've even been on exercises where we've run across some people out hiking alone and just tell them, you're putting yourself and the entities that have to go search for you, you're putting them at risk, so don't go alone. Make sure that they carry some sort of first aid with them, so that if something happens, they can take care of themselves, hopefully. And that kind of goes back to why you don't go alone, because if you don't, if you have somebody with you, at least if you get hurt, that person can stay with you and take care of you and watch you. One of the things that we try to stress is even, let's say there's 2 people hiking, one person gets hurt, the other person says, well, I'm going to leave you here, I'm going to go get help. Well, that's not a good idea. It's the best to stay with that person and, try to get help either through, cell phone service of some sort or, being able to contact somebody through just physical movements or yelling at them or something like that. So, that's the other side of it that I would say. If the person can afford it or is thinking about it, a personal location device of some sort, that's really significant. We had one incident where the gentleman was a little older. He was a survivalist. He had all the material with him to be able to survive, but he went and got lost up in the mountains. Had he had a personal location device with him, I really believe at this day he'd be alive.
Really?
Yeah.
And they're not cheap, but definitely, if you can, certainly get one of those.
But that one time that they need it, could make up.
And I think a lot of them you can activate as you need too. So then you get the initial, few $100 purchase, and then you kind of activate as you need them. So
right.
It's not over the top on it. Besides that, I would say signaling options as well. Signaling mirror with some 550 cord.
Absolutely. Anything that you can do to signal. We one of our requirements for all of our field team members is that they have to have a signal mirror with them.
Okay.
And so that's a very basic tool that can be used for signaling. Obviously, if you have some sort of flare or some sort of laser pointer device, even that helps, that kind of thing. So
as far as the rescues that you You do. Do you have is it most of the time is it just someone ends up lost? Do you have a lot of injuries or animal, insect, reptile type?
Yeah, not much with the animal encounters. We get a lot of people that just go in places where they shouldn't be. Then they're lost, or they get hurt. It's just something. Yeah, it's just something that they, like I was Brian Kurt, the first person that we went and searched for. He was a trail runner, experienced trail runner. And what happened was he was on one of the trails and took a fall and got hurt and got down into an area where he couldn't be spotted. And so that was the result of that. So I would have to say probably more times than not, it's injury or it's dehydration. Because in our environment, on a moderately hot day, you say temperatures around 100. If they run out of water, they got about 30 minutes, and then they're going to be delirious. They're going to be nauseous. They're going to lose their sense of direction, and then they're going to go from there. Yeah, it is a downhill fast from there. So
you run completely on donations, your organization, donations and grants and such as that. Right?
Correct.
So please take this time to tell the viewers where they could donate and where the kind of money goes on.
Yeah. Well, we have a website. Again, like Shane mentioned, we are a 100% donation, non-governmental agency. We do not depend on any of them, although we have MOUs with our law enforcement and other agencies. We do not run an affiliate with them. So it is 100% donation or writing grants. We do have a website. It's called redrocksar.org. redrocksar.org, and people can go on there. There's lots of information on there. There's also tips about hiking and safety tips on there. There's a whole page separate from that. Also describes some of our specialty teams that we have. I can get to that in just a minute. But the donations, there is a link on the website where they can click on that and donate. And again, we rely 100% exclusively on donations or fundraising that we can do by our volunteers on the team.
Yeah, and I'll link that in this video as well. So if you're looking to donate to a good cause, the mission is obviously a good one, and it's what money well spent. So you said you had specialty teams.
We do. We have several of them actually. One of the kind of the newer ones and up and coming, and is doing a lot of training, and it's our K9 team. Okay. There's 3 different kinds of canines. We have 2 of the 3 kinds. One of the ones that we have are scent trailing, which means it's going to specifically follow the scent of a person who's missing. And then the other type of canine we have is HRD, which is human remains detection dog. Oftentimes called a cadaver dog, but I like to use HRD. Okay. So that's one of the canine teams is one of them. Right now we currently have 7 canines on the team. And of the 7, there's 2 of them that are one of them is fully certified, and the other one is partially certified. We're going to get into the other canines and get them certified as well. So that's our K9 team. Mm-hmm. We have a K9 team captain, and they hold trainings as our other teams have as well. They have their own captains, and so we hold our trainings regularly with those on top of the other required trainings that we have to stay active on the team. We have a 4x4 team. That's comprised of people who have 4x4s that are capable of going out and doing, some rock crawling, that kind of things if we need to get into place. Most of those are used for transportation of our field team members. Okay. So if we've got an area, like we had an area, a search where we went to find somebody that was in Lincoln County. It was a very remote area. And it was in the wintertime, so the roads were frozen and kind of thawing. But anyway, the point of it is it took 4x4s to get our field team members from our command post up to the area to where we get to. So that's our 4x4 team. We have a technical ropes team. We do only low angle technical ropes work. We do not do high angle. That's all left to Las Vegas Metro SAR, which is they're phenomenal. Their abilities are just beyond reproach. It's incredible. Then we also have a drone team. So we have 3 drones, and we have 3 drone pilots, fully pilot licensed people on the team. So we can get those out in the areas that we're allowed to take drones, because people that are familiar with drones know that there's certain airspace that are not allowed to fly in. So we have a drone team. One of the other teams that was interesting that we have is we have what's called a people support team. And that's a team of people that are made up of licensed therapists, psychological therapists, and their purpose is to work with the families while the search is going on, because a good majority of the time, family members will show up at the search. And so then we have our people support team members that are there to work with the families and counsel them and do that kind of thing. We also have them there to work with our field team members or our members that are after a recovery or something has been done and made. They are available and make themselves available and do some training with us for how to respond when
There's certainly traumatizing. Some
it is can be. Yeah, can be. Trying to think of what other teams we have. I told you about the ECT, which is our emergency call takers team. They're the ones that take the intake of the calls. We have our mission development team. I'm probably forgetting some. I'll think of it as we go along.
It's a vast organization. So you said you have your training center. Do you want to give me a walkthrough of that?
Yeah.